When the Department of Justice came in, we asked for a lot of things. And one of the things that we asked for is to have a better relationship with the community on how we are with them individually. FaceTime. What we did basically is spoke to Reverend Jeff Brown. He came in, he's a consultant for the R.E.C.A.P Foundation. When he came in, he stated to us, we need to do more community-related organizations, events, be more involved with the community in a manner where the community is how they do it normally. And I said, yeah, you're right, that's a great way of doing things. If we're actually getting involved with them on a normal basis, then we become a part of the community. So Vaughn McFadden lost his life, tragically. He was murdered in March of 2018. I realized that in doing that, walking and standing up for Vaughn McFadden or anybody that's killed in the city of North Charleston, other people want to do the same thing. They just need somebody to go out ahead and make a stand. I started to get a whole lot of folks calling, so they wanted to come out and walk. That's when we realized with Reverend Brown, he came in, he says, listen, what you're doing, Chief Burgess, they do in Boston, but they do it from a community-based side of it. And I was like, wow. The reason why we sent a group from the city of North Charleston to Boston is because I really truly believe that what we were doing in R.E.C.A.P, we could do it a whole lot better. So we actually spoke with Mayor Summey. Mayor Summey drove this. He says, we need to go there. We need to get the training and get the knowledge to enhance ourselves, so when we get back here to North Charleston, we would truly understand what our mission was.
By the 1990s, it really hit home that we really we should start working together. From 1990 to 1994, there were 40 to 60 teenagers being killed every year. So some new things started happening for BPD as well. We start seeing the importance of really getting true intel from the neighborhoods. The only way you get true intel on what's going on in the neighborhood is establish relationships and build those relationships of trust where you know I have your back, you have my back, and instead of going in with an oversaturated patrol, you're actually targeting the individuals that are driving the number. The city started to galvanize. So you had folks like Reverend Jeffrey Brown, Reverend Gerald, 40 to 60 teenagers being killed every year. That's an astronomical amount of future leaders, presidents, lawyers, mayors, whomever, just lost at such a young age. That was really devastating the city. So here's what came to be. We hit the highest homicide rate ever. We hit a homicide rate of 152, 154. There was a couple of carryovers. And like, hey, we have to do something. And that something was this. Everybody was operating in their individual silos with their stereotypical views and perceptions of what other people in their individual silos were doing. There's a lot of finger pointing. And while we were all doing our finger pointing, we were losing the city. But that revelation that we're losing too many people to violence, 154, drastic measures had to be taken. But just because it's monikered as drastic measures, it was quite simple. It came down to just talking, realizing each other's self-worth. It came down to empathy, sympathy, care, and respect. So with the community's help, with the clergy's help, even the private sector, city agency, we started to create programs and initiatives.
The Boston Miracle, the highlight of it is a 79% reduction of homicides over an 8-year period. So we went from a high of 152 homicides in 1990 to, I think the number was 33 in 1998. For me, as a clergy person, it was working with other pastors and faith leaders, along with the police department and probation and the courts and the jails and anybody who wanted to just jump in to find ways in which we could reduce violence in our city. RECAP stands for Rebuilding Every Community Around Peace, and it stems from the over 25 years of work that I've done in communities around the country and around the world, working with stakeholders to try to reduce violence in our communities, really bringing faith communities together to address the issues of violence right outside their front doors, to build relationships with youth who are at high risk to violence and their families, and to find creative solutions to the violence that occurs within their cities. I think there are some pretty big reasons why clergy people need to see this kind of work, getting out into the streets and working with gangs involved with violence, as a top priority of their mission and ministries. If Jesus was here on this earth, he wouldn't be preaching at the biggest churches or leading the biggest parades. He would be out in the places where the greatest need is. And I think in our inner cities, the greatest needs are right outside of the four walls of our sanctuaries with the youth who are there. There's a West African proverb that I often quote when I'm talking to groups. And the quote is this: that you do for me without me, you do to me. And what it means is that there are always folks, when people are having issues and difficulties in their community, who come in with solutions, but there is never an interaction with the people who are actually dealing with those issues. And so they come in with solutions to test, and they say this is the answer. But the real answers come in a dialogue with those who are dealing with the issues in the first place. I think one of the hallmarks of what we did in Boston is that you had community people. It wasn't just clergy, but it was street workers, it was basketball coaches, it was concerned mothers, it was all kinds of folks who started to talk directly to the young people and say, how do you see us helping this situation together? And with those solutions, we were able to make a difference. The real important piece that people need to understand is that the walking is not just about making your presence be known, but it's about building relationships. It's about getting to know the folks who are outside the four walls of your church in a non-judgmental way, in a way in which you want to get to know them. You're not out there to problem solve and to look at the people as the problem to be solved. You're out there to build relationships, to understand how our community got to where it is, and then together find a way to bring it to higher ground.
RECAP is not a judgmental mission. The Peace Walkers' main objective is to be a part of sharing love, time, and also sometimes the Peace Walkers themselves can actually be a source of strength to an individual. Law enforcement and the community, we have to work together. There's no way around it. If we're going to create a safe neighborhood, and I'm saying where, that means police and the community. If we're going to provide a safe neighborhood for all to live in, we have to come together to work as one, then things will change.